Ladies and gentlemen, once again it has been a hot minute since I last uploaded, and yes, I guess I'm here to say I'm sorry, but this time I actually have an excuse because my laptop, it went brokey. So it wasn't the best start till 2023, but hopefully we improve. Now, this wasn't the video I intended on making as my comeback video, but don't worry, because of how long it has been between the videos, I'll be uploading a proper one tomorrow for all the great NRL people on this planet. So get ready for that one, guys. It's going to be an incredible video giving you my analysis of all the big news that we've missed out on, but I thought, let's jump on a bit of a bandwagon. Let's get a clickbait title out there because I do love my cricket. And it's been filling the void without the rugby league. And while I am in a rugby league mood this past weekend, Season 2 of The Test, the Amazon Prime documentary of Cricket Australia just dropped. And I was a huge fan of Season 1. So I was excited for Season 2. And well, I got some good and I got some bad. Now, if you're looking for a proper in-depth review of your documentary, then you've got a billion other places to go to. This is just from a sports dribbler who loves his sport, who loves his Aussie cricket, and I'm just gonna sit back and tell you what I thought of it. So it's more from a sports fan perspective rather than a filmmaker's perspective, but hopefully you guys do enjoy. But before we get into the meat of the video, it's been a while, but I need you guys to smash that like button for 6, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and of course leave a comment down below whether you enjoyed Season 2 of The Test, how did you think it went, how did you think it compared to Season 1, and let's get straight into the video. Now let's get the obvious out of the way. Is it as good as Season 1? Well, no. And unfortunately, it's not even close. But you gotta remember, Season 1 took place over 18 months. Season 2 has only taken place over the past 6. Now, you can sort of say that 8 episodes can equate for 18 months, and there's only 4 episodes of Season 2. But still, a lot of Season 2, this will be no spoilers to anyone, has Australia dominating the Ashes, picking up a big series win in Pakistan, and that series against Sri Lanka, which, you know, is very different to how Season 1 of The Test played out. Obviously, it was following probably the biggest sporting scandal this country has seen this century, and Australia lost, and they lost a lot, and they kept losing, and they lost again, until they retained the Ashes, and it was a feel-good fairy tale way to end. And that's what people go to these things to see. They're there to see all the heartbreak, all the hard times, and then there's the big bit at the end. It's hard, you know? It's hard to do that for Season 2 because, well, from the start, Australia are dominating. But there are a few highlights, so let's look at the good, and let's get one thing straight. If you're a fan of Season 1 of The Test, then you definitely will enjoy this. If you're a fan of Australia cricket, you'll probably enjoy this. If you're a fan of sports in general, love to see the behind the scenes, love to see how things click and how a team works, then you'll probably also love this documentary. If you don't care and you just see a documentary and you have no idea about cricket, you have no idea about sports, this probably isn't one for you. I would suggest going to rewatch Blackfish for the millionth time. But there is still more good than there is bad, and there's a few good parts now outside the insight, outside of seeing the relationship between players like Marnus and Steve Smith. I think there are 3 feel-good stories out of this. The first one being Pat Cummins. Now, Pat Cummins, you would argue, is basically the Justin Langer of this season. There was no interviews with the current coach Andrew McDonald like Season 1, which featured Justin Langer, who was probably the main character of that season. But I would definitely say that Pat Cummins is the main protagonist. He's heavily interviewed in every single episode. He's basically who we followed throughout the first episode. But it's hard to talk about the good without mentioning the bad. So all I'll say is the insight you get between Pat Cummins, seeing him figure out what it's like to become a captain, between media commitments, studying up late to learn fields because he's never captained red ball cricket before. It's all very entertaining. Now, the other 2 best parts of this documentary probably won't surprise anyone. It's obviously Scotty Boland 6 for 7 and it's the Usman Khawaja welcome back to Sydney. Uzi is probably the most important, I guess you could say, character of season 2 as well. He played a big part in the first season, but he sort of went away as he got replaced by Marnus Labuschagne in the Ashes. But from episode 1, where he's not even in the side, he plays a key role. And then you get his Sydney test, and you get him going to Pakistan, where he's arguably the most important and the most focused on player in those 2 episodes. But watching the Scotty Boland backstory, watching how he thought about taking that 6 for 7, the documentary did a great job of just capturing what a special moment that was. And shout out to Mark Howard, because that commentary call is one that will live on forever. But I would say Pat Cummins and Usman Khawaja are definitely the 2 standouts. Watching Uzi go to Pakistan, talking about his father, talking about his family, talking about how he grew up, it definitely shined a new light on him, because we didn't really get that in season 1. And watching his triumphant return in season 2, watching him talk about how he didn't want to hang up the 2019 Ashes poster because it to him symbolized the end of his test career, only to come back and in the end he scored the most runs of any Australian test batsman in the calendar year of 2022 was absolutely insane for him. But yeah, I would say Pat Cummins, Scotty Boland, and Usman Khawaja, they are the best 3 parts about season 1. But that kind of leads me on to the cons, because surprisingly, there isn't a hell of a lot of focus on the Ashes in season 2. In season 1, even from the outset, Langer, even though it's 18 months away, was talking about the Ashes. The series opened with the Hazelwood wicket going up to DRS before we went all the way back to Cape Town. But surprisingly, there's no focus on the Ashes too much. Now, I get it. It was on Australian soil. They were heavy favourites, and they went out there and absolutely smoked England. So when you think that, you think about, all right, what's the obstacle you got to overcome? So you immediately think of Tim Paine and Justin Langer, because they were probably the 2 main players that were featured in season 1, and especially the Tim Paine saga just gets run over in the first 10 minutes. Like, we go straight from, Paine gets dropped, straight into, all right, Pat Cummins is captain, let's go. That's the Pat Cummins era. Like, we don't, unfortunately, there's no interviews from Paine or Justin Langer, which I thought was a bit surprising, especially Langer. Now, at least with JL, they touch him on a little bit, and there's a bit of a build-up between each episodes, but you hear about it just before the Ashes, and then when the Ashes are over, we get the fallout. But again, it's like 10 minutes. It's not a hell of a focus. So when I saw that the Ashes wasn't going to be the focal point of this series, I immediately thought that it was mainly going to be about both Tim Paine and the Justin Langer saga. But unfortunately, that was not the case, which, made it, unfortunately, pretty boring. Like I said, in season 1, it was loss after loss after loss after loss after a little bit of hope, and then they get smashed by India. Then they get smashed by India in India. Then there's hope around the World Cup before they get smashed again, and then ultimately, in the end, they retain the Ashes. In season 2, they dominate the Brisbane Test. They dominate the Adelaide Test. Like, even the Steve Smith, Pat Cummins COVID case, Smithy finally getting a recall as captain, it's just glossed over. So I don't know what it is. I would have loved to see them be able to interview both Paine and Justin Langer. I can understand why maybe Cricket Australia probably didn't want to show that. I mean, it was only a few months ago that Langer went out in that speech and absolutely gave it to the Cricket Australia CEO. So whether it was Langer, whether it was Cricket Australia, I was kind of disappointed with that. Also with Andrew McDonald not being interviewed, I thought that was pretty weird. Like I said, Langer was probably the most important part of season 1 of the test, and the players do speak about that. And it was actually interesting seeing, and I think it's the most talked about part of this documentary, is we learnt from the players why JL was sacked. And there's a very good quote from one of the journalists. It's like the first time ever that a coach in world sports been sacked after winning a World Cup and after dominating the Ashes on home soil. It was a very good point, because usually coaching well and getting results guarantees success, but it just showed, and the players do speak about it, how it was time for a change. So I guess that was pretty interesting. Look, in the end, just compared to season 1, I think the budget was cut. It was a shorter time frame, and like I said, it's hard. It's hard to create a story outside of watching players dominate. And they did still tell some stories about Scotty Boland becoming the second only Indigenous male to play Test cricket, winning the medal, and going out and hopefully trying to inspire young Indigenous kids to take up cricket. And then you got Usman Khawaja returning to form. Learning about the Marnus and Smith relationship, like in season 1, it's all about how Marnus is a pest to Smith, and now all of a sudden in season 2, they're talking about how Smith is looking up to Marnus. That's all good stuff. A bit more focus on David Warner, the ups and downs from him. He even writes in a journal, and he stopped it after Cape Town, so that's all very interesting stuff. Like I said, I'm not the most analytical dude. I didn't go to JMC. If you want that sort of stuff, go watch the Marvel After Show. But if I'm a sports fan, and look, I did enjoy it. Nowhere near as good as season 1, unfortunately. Out of 10, because I'm an out of 10 operator, I'd probably give season 1 about an 8. This one, I'd give it about a 6. It was good. I'm glad I watched it because I've grown up. Not grown up, but I've been watching a lot of these boys in recent years, and, you know, it's great to see it. Watching Marnus talk about who he likes to have a ham and cheese toasty cold, I love that sort of stuff. And I hope there's a season 3, because I want to learn more about these players, even just learning about Cameron Green a bit. You know, it's great stuff. As a documentary, probably not the best. So whether the Test gets its 3rd season or not, I'm not too sure. If you're a cricket fan, if you're a sports fan, I definitely give this a watch. But if you're just someone looking for something to binge, you don't care too much about cricket, and you're not even too much into your sport, I definitely give this one a miss. But guys, there are my thoughts on season 2 of the Test. I promise for my NRL faithful that I will be back with a big video tomorrow, pending NRL copyright. But if you did enjoy this video, guys, please smash that like button for 6. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. 2023 is going to be a big year for Australian sporting fans on the Page YouTube channel. You don't want to be the one dude at the pub talking sport with your mates who isn't subscribed, so make sure you don't miss out. Comment your thoughts about the Test Season 2 down below. How do you think Australia will go in the upcoming tours against India and England? I'm so keen for cricket, but there's also footy, so let's get ready for a huge 2023. Overall, the Ashes, Season 2 of the Test, I'd give it a watch. Thanks for watching, guys. Do the big 3. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.